here, though. It's been brutally cold, but it's just finally starting to warm up. I don't know where we're going to be mining. We're just eating all the reserves faster than ever.
Time is ticking. The frost is creeping in and backed into a corner. Weeks away from the end of Season 15, and the dream of hitting 8,000 ounces feels like it's slipping. The ground that once glittered with promise has turned silent. Roxanne, the wash plant Parker depends on, is dangerously close. Why? No more pay dirt. You'd think with 95,000 acres of claims to his name, Parker would be spoiled for choice. But the con is this. Frozen ground is useless ground. He spends standing still is a second lost. Forever. So now what? Let's rewind. At the all his chips on the long cut. A vast excavation project that he believed would fuel his gold dreams. Oh, maybe even reckless. But in Parker's world, fortune favored. He threw everything at it. Money, machines, manpower. And for 5 months charge.
All right, this is it right here. This scoop makes the first truck onion. Let's do this. Woo!
They fought mechanical breakdowns. They shoveled through frozen pay. They labored under frustration. And now, it's gone. The long cut is empty. The last few golden flecks have been shaken out. All that remains is a massive empty pit and a crew staring into it, wondering what went wrong. And no plan B. And that's the problem. That's the good news. The bad news? Roxanne, one of the critical workhorses of his op shutting down. She's out of pay dirt, and unless Parker finds a new patch to sitting idle. That's not just inconvenient. The idle plant means wasted fuel, wasted time, wasted money. Parker, not with winter bearing down, and his goal so far out of sight, it might as well be a hallucination. So where does Roxanne go next? That's the $1 million case, the 8,000 ounce one. When all conventional paths start to collapse, sometimes the only way forward, dwindling options, and the clock working against him, Parker makes a decision he's never made before.
I guess we'll take a pan and see.
Instead of hunting for fresh, untouched pay dirt, he shifts his focus to the tailings. Massive piles of earth left behind by miners who worked this land decades ago. Back then, mining technology was rudimentary at best. The equipment was crude, the wash plants inefficient in what Parker has access to today. Those miners captured some gold, sure, but they left plenty of idea how much value might still be buried in the dirt they tossed aside. Mistakes of the past could be the key to saving his present. If even every few yards of that old material, it could be just The numbers don't lie, need a windfall. He just needs something viable. Something to keep the wash plant running. Every desperate move, this one comes with a price, or rather a series of them. The tailings have been sitting untouched for decades. Layers of dense vegetation have taken over the mounds of earth. Thick brush has overrun the site. The material, he'll need to clear the area completely. No small feat when the season's end is fast approaching. And yet, it might be his only shot. But Parker? He doesn't scare easily. He calls in Tyson, who shows up with a oath. The job, clear the land, dig up samples, and see if there's any gold left behind in this forgotten dirt. It's dirty, it's chaotic, but what other choice does he have? Before Parker can commit Roxanne to full-scale production on the tailings, he needs evidence, cold, hard data. Without it, investing time, fuel, and manpower into reprocessing old dirt. So he takes the only logical step, testing. The crew sets up a controlled environment using a mini plant designed for precision testing. Unlike the massive wash plants that devour dirt by the ton, this smaller unit process aims to evaluate the gold yield with pinpoint accuracy. There's a threshold, a simple target. 1 gram of gold for every 3 yards of material, lights all the way. Roxanne can be redirected. The season, at least for now, can be salvaged. The entire operation will be deemed unprofitable and potentially catastrophic. 1. Buckets of processed tailings are carefully pans, creating swirling eddies of sediment as the heavier particle bottom. The team watches closely, trying to separate what's real from what's wishful thinking.
I think there's going to be a bunch of gold in the tailings. Great, because there's no stripping, they're thawed, and we need to get some money coming.
Parker stands nearby, not saying much. Every gesture, every glance carries weight. With each pan, the tension thickens. It's the future of the season. Some pans glimmer faintly, offering the slightest glint of hope. Others left to give. Still, the crew pushes forward, eyes trained on every swirl, hands steady, movements deliberate. Finally, they reach the end. The final batch is panned with the same precision, and when the process is done, the gold, if there is plastic shot glass. A makeshift tool, yes, but in this moment, it becomes the container of fate. Everyone leans contents, expression unreadable. For a second, there's still hope, suspended in silence, and with it, disappointment. The test results are final of a sledgehammer. The recovered gold, 6 grams per 3 yards of tailings. A number that, while not entirely worthless, falls short of Roxanne back into full production. It's close, painfully, infuriatingly close. But in mining, the numbers don't lie, and just under still means a loss. Parker and Hizzle for the machines, wages for the crew, and maintenance for the equipment. Bitter as the cold Yukon wind. After all the effort, they've net best. $50. That's not a win. In fact, it feels less like a reminder of how unforgiving this business can be.
Are they in here?
Yeah.
It's so annoying. Overall, it's very lean. Figure out what we're gonna do.
Parker doesn't react right away. He doesn't lash out. He doesn't vent. Jaw set, eyes unreadable. The disappointment is etched into every line of his face. The weight of the season than ever before. Then, finally, but no one believes he means it. Because if there's one thing that never walks away, not when the odds are bad, not when the gold is thin, not even when it's not done, not by a long shot. This was just another setback. The failure of the tailings test stung, but it's not the first high-risk move Parker has made this season, and certainly not the most expensive. Mining site at Dominion struggling to meet expectations. Decision. He invested $2.5 million into two new claims, Gold Run and Sulphur Creek. More by necessity than confidence. Dominion wasn't producing. The season was slipping through his fingers. He needed
Gonna run out of ground on that crew that's down there. They can bounce Bob over there and sluice these pits out.
Sulphur Creek in particular seemed like it might turn things around. Untapped gold, and his crew wasted no time attacking the site with full force. For 3 straight weeks, running pay, pushing their machines and themselves to the limit. Looked like the gamble might pay off. The numbers started climbing. In just under a month, they pulled over 570 ounces of gold from the site. It was a breath of fresh air in an otherwise suffocating season. Spirits rose. The crew felt energized. Maybe, just maybe, was this the pivot that would pull Parker back from the brink? Would Sulphur Creek be the lifeline that turned a near failure into a stunning late game? It seemed that way. Until the weather turned, and everything began to freeze. Just as Sulphur Creek began its rescue, the Yukon reminded him who's really in charge. Winter, quiet and merciless, made its move. The thawed surf ran out fast. The rest of the ground, once potentially rich with gold, had turned to stone under the creeping freeze. Overnight, the operation went. The machines stopped running. The gold stopped flowing. And just like that, Sulphur Creek was out of the picture. He mined out, and Sulphur Creek now frozen solid. Parker's once massive mining effort, bridge cut, one wash plant running solo, trying to keep an empire afloat. But everyone knows the truth. Bridge cut wasn't designed to, yes, productive, sure, but not a season save, not now. So the question hangs in the air.
I feel good. It makes me a bit nervous, actually.
You'd think with how concentrated the material is, you see something, but
It's not like we're just going off of a gut feeling.
Where does Parker go from here? Because the ground isn't. That target, 8,000 ounces of gold, was never going to be easy. But now, with the clock ticking louder and louder, and yet, the goal remains. It's the unspoken presence in every crew meeting, every strategy session, every long stare at the gold table. It hovers, undeniable, and ready to break. Parker is still has moved into its final stretch. There are no extensions, no do-overs. Every single decision from here on out either closes. Time is no longer a luxury, it's a threat. Each day that passes without new ground each misstep is magnified. And as the list of options shrinks, the weight of past decisions begins to press harder. Choices that seemed bold at the time, Parker can't outrun. Most of the claims he owns have already been mined, frozen beyond reach. He's cornered, and by the unforgiving nature of the land. And yet, is to back down. He's still combing through maps, walking claim anything to find that one last patch of ground. Because giving up has never. You have to wonder, what happens if there's nothing left to find?
Here than we bargained for, huh? Or at least of waste.
Because some areas down here I've run into big coarse rock, right?
Yeah, I don't know how long it's gonna take you. You got a lot of gravel.
Ashka stands at the edge of a massive 20-acre hole, the Long Cut. It's not just a pit, seasons worth of sweat, frustration, and stubborn willpower. 19 weeks of non-stop excavation. Machines pushing dirt around, working through breakdowns, freezing winds, and endless setbacks. They gave everything and now, it's done. Millions of dollars fuel consumed, hours that can never be reclaimed. The machinery count from the Long Cut has stopped climbing, and the only thing left to mine is perspective. The directive from Parker had been brutally simple. Done. So they did. Every bucket of dirt, every frozen inch, every... But standing there now, with the job behind them and no next step, the heaviness, the futility, the eerie quiet that follows the end of something massive. The Long... Now, it's just a wound in the earth. Back at the base camp, Parker sits at his makeshift office, staring down a mess of numbers that refuse to cooperate. He runs the calculations. The answer remains the same. The math just doesn't add up. Active wash plant. Every other operation, Roxanne, Sulphur Creek, the Long Cut, they're all offline. One by one, they've been shut down by the relentless Yukon weather. Others abandoned after what began as a multi-front assault of a single fragile operation. And everyone knows it.
And we can't really afford to free anybody else up. Like, stripping crew needs to strip. Money this year. Can't the program totally.
Bridge cut was never designed to carry the full burden of an 8,000-ounce season. It's consistent, and Parker's tally is still dangerously short. The pressure is rising. And winter? It's no longer a forecast. It's a presence. Thinks through the options. Could they try stripping new ground? Sure, but the dirt to thaw and move it would likely outweigh whatever gold they might recover. Maybe. But weather in the Yukon doesn't follow hope. Could they pray? No, not here. It's better than anyone that mining doesn't run on optimism. It runs on. And right now, all three are wearing thin. The road ahead is narrowing, and it's clear they're running on fumes. As there's one question no one dares speak aloud. It lingers in the air, unsaid but undeniable. Where already failed? It's a question that carries a kind of quiet dread. Because admitting you don't know the answer means acknowledging just how far. Hitch doesn't ask it. Tyson doesn't ask it. Parker certainly doesn't ask it. But they're all thinking it. There are no miracle collies with golden streams waiting to be discovered.
We've chopped off our access to the wash plant. Looks like it's all going to be frozen. But,
Isn't a fantasy. It's real, rugged, and cold in every sense of the word. It doesn't care how much carefully you've planned or how badly you need a win. The land doesn't owe anyone anything. And now, in its grip, the Yukon's message is clear. You either find a way to survive, or you don't. Bridgecut was never supposed to carry the full weight of a quiet contributor, the consistent understudy waiting in the wings, not the star of the show. Ground, pulling in gold without much fuss. But now, with every other wash plant shut down, it has become Parker's last standing operation to show. This plant wasn't designed for the scale of production required to close a multi-thousand-ounce hours, processing heavier loads and bearing the full burden of Parker's hopes for the season. Feels like a small victory, but also a reminder. No one says it out loud, but everyone on the crew knows it. Bridgecut alone won't get them to 8,000 ounces, ground too limited, and the remaining time too short. It's buying time, not buying success. Each day begins checking the ground, checking the temperature, checking the sky, and every day, it gets worse. The soil is stiffening with frost. The mornings are colder. The air carries that unmistakable weight of an approaching freeze. The trucks take longer to start. The equipment and the hours of productive mining grow shorter with every turn of the earth. Once the freeze sets in completely, the ground becomes an impenetrable sheet of still out there, gets locked beneath layers of frost. The pans go dry. The engines stop. And every unmined ounce becomes
what we got, hopefully it's just compact. Everybody driving on it. You know what that is?
Parker isn't dealing in long-term projections anymore. With the path narrowing and options vanishing, Parker is staring at a familiar crossroads. The safe plays have already failed him. Now, the unknowns. He could break ground in a new area, though it would mean moving heavy machine expense. He could revisit claims that were previously written off, hoping that something, anything, was overlooked. Or he could take in even bigger areas dismissed as too marginal, too frozen, or too far gone. None of these choices comes without consequence. They require coordination and blind faith in possibility, and just enough to make a difference. Or they could waste what little time and money he has left. But if there's one thing Parker is, it's that he doesn't crumble under pressure. He sharpens. And now, with his back against the wall and preparing for one final move. Not because it's safe, because it's the only move he has left.
There. Hopefully we got a lot of gold in that sluice box at the end of the week here.
It's easy, amorous, even easy. But this season, it's showing its fangs. Every ounce Parker's pulled has diesel and grit. The equipment's broken. The people are tired. The margins are razor thin. And there are debts looming. Crews depend on him. And that gnawing pressure to prove, once again, that and outsmart the ground. The cost of failure? It's not just measured in dollars. It's measured when the machines are off and the frost settles in, Parker reflects. Not just on this season. Could he have planned better? Anticipated breakdowns? Allocated resources differently? Sure. Regret doesn't pay wages. Reflection doesn't keep wash plants running. What matters now is what comes next. And Parker knows there's no more room for trial and error. Every move from he could go back to Gold Run, test that untouched claim, and hope the old miners missed something. He could chase rumors of gold-rich soil, frozen ground, and pray for a break in the weather. Or he could risk it all on one last massive excavation, his equipment longer, gambling every last drop of fuel on one final Hail Mary. Has to happen now, because in the Yukon, gold doesn't wait. Will Parker's next gamble be the one that saves the season? Or will it go down as the thing certain? The next few weeks will be brutal. The ground is cold. The margin for almost out of time. But if there's one thing we've learned watching Parker schnobble over the years, it's this. He doesn't fold and barrels toward its final days. One question remains he needs before winter buries his hopes for good.